Questions to the Premier. The Premier is fast-tracking a new 400 series highway that will carve through irreplaceable farmland and the greenbelt. Highway 413 will cost at least $6 billion, but it will save drivers about 30 to 60 seconds per trip. And now research from Environmental Defense shows that the highway could lead to 17.4 million extra tons of greenhouse gas emissions from vehicles by 2050. So it's not going to help drivers. It's certainly not going to help the environment. It will make money for powerful developers. It will. That's goes without saying. At what point is the Premier going to put the public interest ahead of the interest of his donors and cancel this wasteful and harmful highway project?
To reply, Minister of Transportation.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I thank the member opposite for the question. Mr. Speaker, there is a strong case for moving forward with the Highway 413. By 2051, the population of the Greater Golden Horseshoe is expected to grow to almost 15 million people.
Leader of the Opposition, come to order.
We need our road infrastructure to keep up. We must alleviate congestion, which is already terrible in the Greater Golden Horseshoe, before it gets worse for commuters and before
Leader of the Opposition will come to order.
Mr. Speaker, we want to get this right. That is why we're continuing the environmental assessment process, which the Liberals cancelled. We believe that work on this project, on the environmental assessment aspect, is essential so that we can determine whether or not we move forward with Highway 413, which is could be critical infrastructure for the people of York, Halton and Peel regions.
Supplementary question.
Thank you, Speaker. The Minister just said there's a strong case to be made for the highway. We would contend there's also a very strong case to be made for the environment. Yes. And as a farmer, an even stronger case to be made for agricultural land. We lose 175 acres a day now. The 15 million people that are going to be living in the GTA in a few years are going to need food. And we're going to need farmland, and you can't build it. And now we have the chance to plan ahead to protect it. So again, we need to look at these projects from the environmental point of view and from agriculture, from feeding the people point of view. Is that going to be a major component in determining how you go ahead with the development of this province?
To reply, once again, the Minister of Transportation.
I thank the member opposite for his comments, and I agree. And that is why our government resumed the environmental assessment process, so that we could consider whether or not to proceed with the Highway 413 with all of the facts and evidence that are necessary to make decisions of this magnitude. The Liberals didn't think that that was important. They think we should just let people come to the Greater Golden Horseshoe and not consider what kind of infrastructure is necessary. But I agree we need to consider all environmental impacts, which we will get. We will get the information from the environmental assessment process when we need to consider impacts on agriculture, on farmland, on the greenbelt, Mr. Speaker. But, Mr. Speaker, we're not the only ones who think that it's important to consider this infrastructure. So does the Ontario Livestock Transporters Alliance, and so does the Peel Federation of Agriculture. So is the member opposite suggesting that I ignore their request for me to consider whether we should move forward with this infrastructure?
Order.
Because they are speaking for their communities. They are speaking for the needs of their industry. I believe it's important to take into account the needs of all our stakeholders as we study whether or not to proceed with this highway, Mr. Speaker.